Today, I welcome Julie Veitch, owner of Inner Core Coaching. Julie is an intuitive business mentor who works with online entrepreneurs who are struggling with how to translate their genius gifts into income, or who are experiencing no momentum in their new or existing business. She helps people to deactivate exactly what slows them down and activate their energy and power to successfully launch their dream business into the world as an expression of their true genius. It is with great pleasure that I welcome her on Curves Welcome today. Julie, I am so excited to have you here to chat about how to tap into our creative genius.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Susie.
You're welcome. Julie and we met about a year ago. I had her on another podcast that I do, The Curvy Life. And we talked about facing and embracing life's curves. And we had such an incredible, rich, deep conversation that led really to a beautiful connection. I really enjoy reading Julie's posts and listening to her Facebook Live sessions. She truly is inspiring. And I can tell you right now that just about a few weeks ago, she changed my life, and dramatically, because thanks to her Facebook Live video, I launched a new business. And it was because of her that I feel like I got that courage that I wanted, that inspiration that I needed. Yeah. So Julie, I don't even know if you realize the impact that you have had on my life, but I am super grateful because I really do feel like it's leading me down a really cool, focused path. And I'm really grateful to you for that.
And it's such a pleasure. And thanks for articulating that. I did have notion of the impact that it had had, but I just really, really love, and it's my passion, just to really, really be able to witness and to contribute to people launching their dream businesses based on their true genius gifts. And it's just so much fun to be watching you flourish this way, Susie.
Now, Julie, so I read a quote on your Facebook page recently that struck me as awesomely beautiful. I'm going to share it with my listeners right now. Julie wrote, "I truly believe that the universe has my back." Julie, can you share how this quote touches you?
Sure. It's actually something that I heard and that resonated with me quite a long time ago. And it just landed deep down in my bones. And I realized how much I trust in something larger than myself. I've cultivated over the course of my life and through all the adversity and through learning and through surrender to the challenges to really deeply trust in something that's larger than myself and cultivate this baseline that I'm okay no matter what. And so I do write that actually quite often. I say that I know the universe has my back. And I've seen evidence over and over and over again that I am supported and loved, and that there is something larger than me that's guiding me and supporting me through the curves of life and the challenges. It actually really relates to intuition. So I really can't wait to dive into this conversation, and I'll weave that back in. There's just such a great connection between the energy of the universe that flows through us all and the connection between that and intuition.
Yeah, I'm sure that I am not alone when I say that there are times when I truly struggle with that flow, that energy flow, in trusting that energy flow, that trusting that it's actually there. I've had situations in my life where, and I feel like maybe some people might be able to relate to this, and maybe you can address this. And that is, there are moments in life where maybe there's a darkness. It could be death, it could be challenges, it could be finance, it could be anything that's really challenging us. And there are moments where you wonder, is somebody there? Does somebody have my back? Is there God? Is there that universal support out there? And you really want to trust that it's there, because without it, it's really bleak and dark. And I have to say that it is in those darkest moments, like when I faced the death of people that I care about, friends that have died, grandparents that have died, pets that have died, that through death, that's where I got my support. I felt that their presence was still in my life, and I still feel that their presence is in my life. And I feel like that guides my intuition. And there's great hope in that. And there's great promise in that. And for anyone who's listening, who ever feels that they lack that flow, lack that support, lack somebody in their life through spirit or however you want to put it, what I would like to be able to say to them is, I'd like to be able to offer them something that gives them that glimmer of hope that there is somebody watching out for them. To that person, what would you say?
Well, it's interesting. You said a couple things there that really struck me. And one was that, well, let's start with your question about what, that person and what I'd like to say. I believe that we are all energy. We are all matter. And there are a few schools of thought about this, but this is my deep belief, is that because we're all energy and matter, when we leave our bodies, that energy and matter still exists, and that spirit is still available. That's the first thing. But the second thing you said was this belief that there is something supporting me out there. And what I've come to realize is that the universe is not, or God or the divine, or however you wish to name that for yourself, is that it exists in here. And it's when opening the channel for flow of that universal energy to come through, that the realization becomes, I don't need to look out there for support. The support I'm looking for is actually right inside me. And I am God. And I am this universal energy. And it's that dance between allowing the channel to let that energy flow through and closing the channel. But it's keeping that channel open and or recognizing that in those dark moments, which are inevitable, inherent to being human, and they happen all the time, that there's always a choice to recognize that the channel is closed at the moment, and I'm in fear at the moment, and I am in this deep, dark emotion at the moment, and recognizing that. And there's a choice point right in that moment, and the moment of recognition to invite the reopening of something that's more powerful than the fear. The supportive energy of the universe is actually that energy that is given opportunity to flow through again, and then to surge through your system and to reinvigorate, reactivate, and re-enliven the truth of who you really are.
That was super helpful, Julie. What I got from that was that love is so much more powerful than fear.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can tap into love of yourself, love of others who are in your life, love of those who have passed, love of life in general, you can use that love as that power that you need to overcome that fear.
Absolutely. Love holds a much higher frequency. Given that we are energy, we vibrate at various levels of frequency through our lives, through our days, through each moment. Love and appreciation hold the highest frequency of energy, and fear holds one of the lowest. And then there's everything in between. So it's really understanding energy and mastering that in our internal systems so that we can do that dance. I think that the recognition of what's happening is really important, and it's the key initial element that is needed to then transform it, because we can't change anything we're not aware of.
Speaking of transforming and intuition, I think that this is a nice segue into a question that I have for you. And that is, what is your greatest passion? And if you could talk about that passion in reference to your intuitive business mentor program, because I think it's fascinating. And I'd really like to be able to hear more about that and for you to share that with the listeners.
Sure. I love talking about this because it is my passion. And my passion, my deep, deep passion, and this comes from my own history, my own evolution, my own spiritual, emotional, physical evolution, of really waking up to the gift that I am in the world and waking up to my own very unique, very specific genius that I have to offer in the world, which has led me to becoming an intuitive business mentor. And along the path has morphed and really uncovered for me what my wheelhouse is. And I love and so passionate about supporting others to activate their own genius gifts. First of all, define them, because what happens is that our genius and our gifts are really actually underneath the surface. And so often new businesses start to build and grow their businesses without necessarily very specifically tuning in to the genius that they are, and therefore are less able to fully express their zone of genius out into the world and share it, and therefore are less able to attract the soul clients that are meant to work with them because they're aligned as a result of reading their posts, hearing their podcasts, listening to them, and realizing that, oh my gosh, this is the mentor for me. So really, in a nutshell, I'm so passionate about people discovering what their genius is and then translating that into currency, translating that into an income, into a business. And then someone who has an entrepreneurial spirit oftentimes doesn't exercise that spirit throughout the course of their whole lives. Those that I work with have recognized that they have that entrepreneurial spirit, that they have that yearning to really express themselves out in the world and use business as a vehicle for their expression of their true genius. It's different for every single one of us. You know, there are thousands of business coaches, of life coaches, of writers, of book writers. There are thousands of creatives in the world. And each and every one of us has a very unique brand of genius and way in which we can impart our work in the world. And so I love to support people to define it, express it, impart it, and translate it into an income generating business that is sustainable for them and more than sustainable for them. And that gives them a high level of income in which that they can have the space and time to keep creating from their genius. Because it's so much fun. It's so much fun and it's so activating. And it keeps the channel of the flow of that love, universal energy, creative energy. It keeps the life force energy flowing when you're in your zone of genius. When you're working in a 9-to-5 and you're not in your zone of genius, or you're touching into it bits and pieces here, but you're stifled in some way, that channel of creative energy flow is stifled. And that's why it's really hard to stay in the flow. So that's what I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, staying in that flow can be really challenging for a lot of people because let's face it, most of us who are entrepreneurial in spirit, I am definitely entrepreneurial in spirit, always have been, always will be. We get caught in this world of, well, I need to pay my bills, so I need a full-time job that will support my lifestyle. But at the same time, that full-time job is actually now starting to get in the way of what my focal point is. And so it's an interesting balance that needs to be made. And it's trusting, getting to that point where you can trust your intuitive self and your talented self and your genius self to cut the ties and say, okay, I need to take a leap of faith here. I know a lot of creatives. I work for creatives in my podcast, in my motivational videos on YouTube, on my Patreon page, in my books. I work for creative mindsets and trying to share insights with them. I'm very connected to creative people, and we all seem to suffer that same sort of balancing act, being able to keep up with that balancing act, I should say, in being able to say, well, when is the time to make that cut? When is the time to take that leap of faith? You have to trust yourself and you have to trust that the universe has your back, but also you have to trust in that love, and then that power in that love is stronger than that fear of not taking that leap. And so I'm at that crossroads right now. And another thing that you said that really touched upon me was the connection that we have with certain creative people. Now, there are lots of creative people out there. When I say creative people, I'm talking about everybody in general, in terms of podcasters, motivational speakers, life coaches, all of that. There are so many of us out there. And it's interesting because when you are supposed to connect with somebody, you just do.
Mhm.
And that's how I feel. Like I connected with you a year ago, but it really recently is when I started really listening into what you have to say. And I've truly, to the core, your messages speak to me. Now, I listen to a lot of life coaches and a lot of inspiring people, but not everybody touches me in that way. I don't tune in. I don't make an effort to schedule time to listen in and really absorb what that person is saying because there's only so much time in a day. So I find that really fascinating how I feel like when we are supposed to be connected to somebody, when there is a message there for us, the universe says, okay, listen, stop and listen now. I
Mhm.
think that's so cool.
Yeah. Therein lies the art of intuitive marketing and intuitive business building. And that's just such, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. There is something that happens when you are in your zone and truly, truly connected to expressing your intuitive genius. What happens is there is a synchronistic light grid that lights up in other people who are meant to hear you. So you are meant to hear my message. And it's that easy. However, it requires an enormous amount of trust in your intuition.
Let's talk about intuition because, okay, so we've been talking about it right now, but truly, what is intuition? For somebody who is listening and is maybe a little confused by, well, I don't understand what they're talking about in terms of
Mhm.
intuition. What is this intuition that I'm supposed to be tapping into if I don't even know what it is? How do I know what it is?
I'm laughing because the part of us that says, I don't even know what that is. What is that anyway? I need the information. I need to like put it in a nice, neat little box, is the part of us that is the logical brain, that is the opposite of intuition. And the part of us that guaranteed is what gets in the way of accessing our intuition. So I'll preface it with that. Intuition is the voice of our soul. Intuition is our absolute, in our bones truth that we know is true. And it's a quiet whisper. It can arrive in many different ways for different people. You know, it can arrive in a sensation in your body. It can arrive as an image. You get a flash about something. You know, a flash image or picture in your mind, because our minds do think in pictures about something, and it's so fast and so fleeting that it's easy to ignore it, dismiss it. It can come in the form of words. For me, my intuition comes in the form of literally, I hear words and phrases in my mind. I hear my intuition. And I've also seen images and I've experienced sensations too, but it's getting to know that quiet voice inside of ourselves that is speaking the truth to us. And it's a voice that, because it's often dismissed, people don't trust it. People don't listen to it. People don't admit that they have an intuition. People will even say, that's hogwash, you know, like intuition is not reliable. So intuition is really, really subtle. And the art of cultivating a relationship with your intuition is indeed cultivating an inner self-trust with yourself, because your intuitive voice is your truth. And the more we squash our truth, and I talked about this on one of the live streams that you listened to, and we're talking about, is when we dismiss our own truth, we're pinching off that channel of energy, of universal energy that's coming through. And the energy of the universe is the energy of our intuition. It's a hit. That's why they call it an intuitive hit, because it hits you. And if you pay attention to it, if you trust it, and if you act on it, you're not only keeping the channel of creativity and energy and staying in that flow state for longer, but you're actually amplifying that intuitive hit, and it amplifies into creating more and creating more and creating more. And as a creative, when you get into the zone and time passes by without you even recognizing that time has gone by, and you're in the flow and you're just creating, and then you create something else, and then you get another idea. All of those ideas, insights, and hits come from your intuition, your truth, and that universal energy that exists inside of you.
Yeah, Julie, I read a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks a lot about being in that state of flow in order to be able to open up to creativity. The way he suggests that somebody has to do that is through meditation, because you have to be able to get out of that logical mind and tap into that energy. And the way to do that is to go into that conscious mind of yours and be able to quiet the thoughts, get out of that mindset of the material world and all of its limitations and all of its fears and all of the blockages, and be able to tap into potential, the potential possibilities that exist out there in the world. And the way to tap into that is by deep breathing, by doing some meditation, yoga. And for me as a creative person, that's how I get into that flow of state for those creative ideas, for that, I think what you're saying, that intuition to flow through, is I meditate first before any writing session, before any digital storytelling brainstorming session, before any podcast session. I meditate to free my mind up of all that clutter, because there's so many blockages and so many thoughts that say no, yes, no, yeah, they're just vying for my attention. So I have to shut them all up so that I can actually allow the universe, if you will, to speak to me. It's the coolest feeling when, as a writer, when I am really in that state where my fingers are flying around the keyboard. I don't even know how these words are getting into my brain, but they are just flowing right through me, my brain, my fingertips, and onto that screen. And then I stop and I'm like, holy shit, I just wrote 5,000 words. And that's a freaking awesome chapter that I just wrote. Where did that come from? And I say it's my character speaking through me, but honestly, I think it's the universe speaking through me. And it's because I allowed that decluttering of the brain, if you will, to get into that flow.
What's interesting about that is such a great practice, and to really eliminate that noise so that you can hear that voice. And for those of us who have brains like potentially yourself, to really busy, right-brained, creative, never stops. The ideas just keep going. A cluttered, chaotic brain that just never stops. Meditation can be difficult. Why I bring this up is because the intuitive voice of your soul doesn't only come up when you meditate and you get yourself to that point of quiet stillness. Your intuition is active when it's busy, when your brain is feeling chaotic and running on all cylinders. And the art of really harnessing the power of that chaos, of that busy, creative, idea riddled brain, that's an art in itself, because hearing the intuition speak when your brain is busy, just as much as hearing your intuition speak when you're quiet. And both are equally important, because, and I speak for myself, and I also am speaking for many of the clients I'm attracting now are right brain creative, intuitive people who just find themselves constantly buzzing and can't quite make heads or tails out of it, can't get organized, can't find their way to following the formulaic systems and methods and formulas of creating a business the traditional way, because their brain is too busy, and they haven't tapped into their intuitive genius yet. And that happened to me when I first started my business. I said, okay, so I've never been an entrepreneur. That was 6 years ago, after having been a career practitioner for 20 years and working in the traditional world of work. All over my newsfeed and in my email were all of these systems and how to, build a business in 90 days, how to write a script for your perfect elevator speech, how to create a funnel that's going to work for you. And I was following all these things outside of myself. And my brain was just firing on all cylinders, trying to follow someone else's system instead of recognizing my own creative genius, intuitive hits, and following that. So what I would do was, I would try and follow all these formulaic ways that were created by someone outside of myself. They weren't my way because they were created by someone who wasn't a right-brained creative genius. And then I would meditate in between to try and quieten things down because I couldn't quite organize myself. Then I started to learn the mechanics of and the science of intuitive business building and marketing, and started to really use that as my primary formula, so to speak, because it's my own, and learned how to access my intuitive hits, even in the busy, even in the creative moments, even in those, I'm in the zone, and like, which intuitive hit do I follow first? And what's intuition and what isn't? And all of the subtle nuances of learning to use my intuition and harnessing that to build my business. And that's when everything changed.
Okay, so Julie, imagining that we have a whole bunch of listeners who are entrepreneurs in spirit. As an entrepreneur, for myself anyway, I'm an entrepreneur who has always wanted to create, but I have struggled in the past with understanding what path to take. I have a lot of skill sets, okay? I've built up a ton of skill sets over the years, and all of them I really enjoy. So I've got my storytelling, I've got my novel writing, I've got my technical expertise in graphic design, in audio editing, in delivering podcasts, in creating video, in photography, all of that kind of stuff. And so for me as a creative, I have been all over the board. I'm even a hairdresser. And so, for myself as an entrepreneur, I know that I am just craving to do my own thing. I love my work at the university. Do not get me wrong. And I'll probably be there for a little while longer. But I do crave to get out of the box and carve my own path in life because I know I have it in me to do that. And I am not going to be satisfied until I actually do that. And so my whole problem has been, well, what path do I take? Do I open up a hair salon? Because, hey, that seems logical. I know the hair industry inside and out. I've written books on it. I've worked in it. I know how to market it. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm like, yeah, but then I start thinking, oh, God, I have to learn all about leasing a building and buying supplies. And then, oh, my gosh, I'm going to have to work in that place 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, cleaning on the weekends. Like, I don't know that that's really what I want, but maybe that's what I'm supposed to do because that seems like the only viable brick and mortar business opportunity that seems like it could really pan out for me. Anyway, so I'm all over the board. One thing that I love doing is I love writing my books, and I've written 13 novels and 4 or 5 nonfiction books. But one thing I can say about that is I personally do not want to count on that as my mainstream of income, not because I do not believe I can make a mainstream of income from it, but because I feel like that will put a damper on my creative energy and that flow. I know myself, the minute that I monetize my books like that, that's when my creativity and my love for it will just fizzle out and I'll get all stressed out. So I have always said to myself, that's not really that's one stream of income, but it's not my mainstream. My mainstream, I wanted to have cash flow with something that I know it can have cash flow. I have control over that to some extent. Book writing, you don't have control over that. It's a subjective field. If a book gets bad reviews, if a book doesn't sell well, then, now you have to wait another year because I take a year to write books to make up that. So I never want to put that pressure on myself. So this is what I do. My logical brain keeps going back and forth. Hair salon, storytelling, this, that, what can I do? I got to do something. And then I stall out and I don't do anything.
Yeah.
And I just continue working my 7:30 to 3:30 job, doing the, stuff I like, but it's not, I'm an entrepreneur. I want my own business. So here's what I want to say is when I listened to you do a live video a few weeks back, it reeled me in. What you were talking about just connected with everything I just said in terms of being vulnerable, going after what's in our heart, and it created a fire in me, and it opened up a spigot, and then it put me on an energy level that I didn't even know I was on. And then the next day, I went to a video shoot for the university, and I was speaking with this dynamic consultant who just put the idea, the nugget in my head. Why are you not doing a video production company? You are so good at this. You make me so comfortable. You have a hairdressing quality. You can do makeup and hair. That's your niche. You're able to like dress people and make them look great on camera. You know how to work a camera. You know how to do an interview. You know how to produce a video, because I've done others for her. And why are you not doing that? And I was like, she just gave me a confidence. Like, we connected, her and I. And then because I had just listened to what you said the day before, it all connected. Like, the universe is like, hello, this is what we're trying to tell you here. This is your path right here. This is your path. Get out of your own way, open your eyes, and take all those skills that you have built up over the years and do something with it. And so I swear to God, the next day,
Yeah.
I opened up Sunny Bee Productions video company, and me and my better half, and that's it. We're already up and running. Like it was as quick and easy as that. Yeah. So I can't wait to see where it takes me.
Fantastic.
And it's all in alignment with everything I do. It's the storytelling aspect. It's the video. It's the editing. It's the audio editing. It's bringing people's stories alive. It's sharing insights. It's all of it. It's all of it in one. And I'm like, why didn't I ever see this before? And I don't think I was ready to.
That's right. And the day that you heard me, you opened something in you, opened up to receive the truth of this. And the minute you receive the truth, which is your intuition, you're receiving what's important for you, and you're being informed by your truth, your intuition. And that's how quickly the universe works and conspires on your behalf. The very next day, an opportunity opened up for you. In the past, you may not have really received the truth. And what you said earlier was really, really, really key to all of this, is that the logical brain, this isn't a good idea because how on earth could I ever make a living this way? Because this doesn't make any sense. This isn't rational. This isn't reasonable. This is so foolish and irresponsible. I can't do this because I don't want it to XYZ. And that logical brain is not the voice of your truth or your intuition. It's the voice of one of your shadows. There are 4 dominant voices of fear. And one of those dominant voices you were referring to just there, it's that saboteur that needs it to make sense, that needs more information, that needs more time, that needs to get all your ducks in a row, that needs to make sense of it all before you act. And therefore, because you're in analysis paralysis, you in this case, do nothing. And when you start to build a relationship with your truth and your intuition, you also must be building a relationship with your shadow voices of fear as well. You must be able to recognize them both in order to work with them both. That's a significant piece of work that I do with people, is to deactivate the exact things that are in their way. And those are their shadow voices that are steering them away from their truth and from their intuition and from their magic and from their possibility thinking.
What exactly is shadow alchemy?
What a great question. What it is a step beyond shadow management. And the entire self-help industry and our paradigm has been that we can manage our shadow, which are the voices of fear that I've been talking about. We can manage them and we can soothe them and give ourselves relief from them. And the problem with shadow management is that when we do that, those voices of fear just relocate somewhere else in our system, and they show up and pop up somewhere else, and we get triggered some other time. Shadow alchemy is and there is a shadow alchemy tool that I can help people gain access to if they would like to reach out to me. Is a tool that alchemizes the shadow and actually transmutes the fear and turns it into raw, potent power. for good. So it's a more sustainable way to handle the voices of fear in a way that has a long lasting effect. It's an amazing, brilliant tool.
Well, that sounds incredibly helpful. Something that I think everybody could use.
Yes. It's really interesting that you brought that up. You gave such a great representation of what a saboteur does. And how long had your saboteur been running the show? And so really and I think I did a post on this yesterday about letting your intuition drive the bus or something like that, like letting your intuition take the lead and run the show. And what you're doing is you're turning the tables around, because we have all been conditioned in our lives to revere logic and planning, and this paradigm shift needs to happen in order for us to creatively step into our dream businesses. We have to experience an entire paradigm shift. And that is part of the work, is alchemizing those voices of fear, because they're subconscious and they keep popping up. And Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this, and they keep popping up all over the place, left, right, and center, and they're subconscious. We don't even know they're there. That's part of the body of work, and that's part of what needs to happen, is that relationship with both the intuition and those voices of fear, and knowing what to do with them.
Yeah. So, Julie, for anyone listening, what would be 1 to 2 steps that you would advise a person to take to be able to tap into their intuition on an easy way, like right after they're done listening to this? Is there some kind of an exercise that they can do, small or large, that they can start to practice this?
Yeah, a really simple, easy way is, if you're listening, as soon as you stop listening, just pay attention to what arises in you. And it might be, and it's some kind of message, it's some kind of pull towards something. It might be a pull to go make lunch. It might be a pull to call somebody. It might be this fleeting intuitive hit of, you might get an image of your mom. You might get, a message in the form of a phrase to say, go take a walk. And whatever that is, however seemingly unrelated it is to what you want to create. If your focus is on creating a business and you're struggling and there's no momentum happening and you don't know how because you're doing all the things, your intuitive hit will likely seem very much unrelated to what it is you want to do. But go do it. And the step is to act on it immediately. Because when you don't act on your intuitive hit immediately, its energy fizzles out. And the logic and the saboteur and the voices of fear take over. And, you go back to, oh no, I can't do that. That's ridiculous. What do you mean go for a walk? Like, I have all this stuff to do. And then back you are in your busy brain, and still cycling through that cycle of really not moving forward. So that's an easy, really simple step, is just to play with it. Play with acting on your intuition right away, no matter what it says. It might be, go do laundry, or, go outside and pet your cats. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I just love that. That's simple. It's something that we can all do. As soon as this podcast is over, we can all do that. We can all just even sit in silence for a few minutes and see if something hits. I love that.
And then when you act on it, notice what happens. Notice that maybe you go for a walk and you run into someone who provides you with an idea. Notice whether, you go and pet your cat and you see something I'm just looking out at my garden right now, because you're outside petting your cat, you see something in your garden that's growing, and it gives you an idea about growing the garden, planting seeds for something else. So it's important to notice, and then also celebrate and say thank you, and connect the dots between the fact that your intuition led you to this idea or this person or this new insight about what's next. Celebrate that energy is actually being provided for you, and that the energy of the universe has your back. It's like, thank you, universe. And I say thank you probably 50 times a day.
I love it. One thing I do every morning, Julie, is before I even get out of bed, I say, thank you so much for this new day. I'm
Hmm.
so grateful for it. I can't wait to see what happens today. And then I get out of bed. And then that sets me up for success. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
I do it every morning, and I make a point to do that every single morning. And it
Yeah.
really helps.
Yeah.
It's really about seeking, going out there and seeking and being open and saying, I am open to finding something, to being pleasantly surprised. That's another one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's
Mhm.
magical phrases that I like is ask the universe to pleasantly surprise you. And, I every single day there's something that pleasantly surprises me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important not to miss that.
Yeah,
Right?
I think it's
Miss
because I
it.
I seek it. I seek it out every day. Seek and you shall find, and I really do believe that's true. Even with intuition, seek your intuition and it will find you.
Yeah, and ask. What does my intuition want for me right now? That's a really good question to ask also as a next step. What does my intuition want for me right now?
Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's
Trust me,
powerful.
and remember that the initial intuitive hit that you get, that's your intuition. Everything after that is not. Everything after that is, oh, I should really, do the dishes instead. I really need to send out that email, or everything else after that intuitive hit is not your intuition. So when people ask, how do I know if it's my intuition or my fear, or it's the initial little boop that pops up so ever so subtly, that is your intuition.
Powerful.
Mhm.
Julie, I always like to ask a question that just to get to know my guest a little better is what is one piece of advice that you would tell your younger self if you could go back and have a conversation with her?
Hmm. Wow. I love that question. I think it really would be and is, Julie, trust what you can't see. Because you've been trained to only trust the things you can see, and once you have evidence, and once you have proof of things working, and once you have a plan, like all those tangible things. And I never knew that it was so important to just trust what I can't see.
Powerful. Trust what you can't see. I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah.
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 Julie, it's been such a pleasure. How can listeners best connect with you?
They can reach me by email, which is julie at innercorecoach.com, or go to my website, innercorecoach.com. And I also have a Facebook page called Beyond 9 to 5 Accelerator. For sure, reach out to me if you are on Facebook, and look up Julie Veitch Inner Core Coach and reach out to me that way. I also have a profile on LinkedIn, and I'm not sure, Susie, if you'll be providing people in show notes.
I'm going to provide all that.
People can also access the Genius Code Detector tool that I've created through my website and or through a URL that you have in the show notes. And it's a tool that will get people started on really drilling down to the root of their actual genius gift. It asks some really thought-provoking questions to get people going and really identifying those gifts so that they can better articulate, express them, and then market them out into the world and receive their soul clients.
Wonderful. So what I'm going to do for everybody is I am going to be putting all of the links that Julie mentioned in the show notes below. Please reach out to her, connect with her. She is phenomenal. She has helped to change the course of my life. And she's just a wonderful person with a big heart. And gosh, it's just been a true pleasure having you on the show, Julie. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure and so much fun talking with you as usual. Thanks, Susie.
You're very welcome.